The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air. You hand over a small piece of green paper, or perhaps just tap a piece of plastic against a machine. In return, you receive a steaming cup, a moment of warmth, a start to your day. It's an everyday exchange, utterly mundane. But stop for a moment. Think about what just happened. You exchanged a worthless piece of paper, or an invisible flicker of data, for a tangible, consumable good. You traded nothing for something. How did we get here? How did humanity concoct this extraordinary magic trick, this grand collective hallucination we call money? For most of our existence, we didn't have it. We hunted, gathered, shared. Then we tilled the earth, built villages, and eventually sprawling cities. But the moment we ventured beyond the immediate circle of kin and trusted neighbors, something fundamental had to change. This is the hidden history of money's invention, a story not just of commerce, but of trust, imagination, and the very fabric of human cooperation. For centuries, historians and economists painted a simple picture. Primitive societies used barter. If you had an apple and needed an orange, you found someone with an orange who wanted an apple. Problem solved. This, the story went, was wildly inefficient. What if the orange haver didn't want your apple? What if they wanted a goat? You'd need a double coincidence of wants. Money, then, was invented to escape this messy, frustrating system. But that story, as compelling as it sounds, is mostly a myth. Anthropologists and historical research suggest that complex barter was incredibly rare in early human societies, especially within a community. Instead, our ancestors operated on principles of reciprocity and debt. If I helped you build your hut, you owed me a favor. If I shared my kill today, you'd share yours tomorrow. This wasn't a direct exchange, it was a web of social obligations, a dynamic ledger of "I owe you one." Your reputation was your credit score. Trust was the currency, built on repeated interactions and the knowledge that transgressions would lead to social ostracization, a death sentence in the wild. Imagine a small prehistoric village. There's no need for money. If someone has a surplus of berries, they share. If another has a successful hunt, meat is distributed. People keep mental tallies, not of precise quantities, but of who contributes, who pulls their weight. This system worked beautifully for small, tightly knit groups where everyone knew everyone else. It was efficient, socially binding, and remarkably flexible. But what happens when your village grows? When trade routes stretch across vast distances, connecting disparate tribes who don't share a common lineage or history? When you're dealing with strangers, not family? The "I owe you one" system breaks down. How do you trust that someone you'll never see again will repay a favor? How do you value a basket of exotic shells against a bag of salt if neither party has an immediate, pressing need for the other's exact commodity? This is where the earliest forms of proto-money, or commodity money, began to emerge. These weren't coins, but things universally desired, durable, divisible, and relatively scarce. Salt, vital for preservation and diet, gave us the word salary, literally salt money. Cattle, a living, breathing form of wealth, could be herded and exchanged. Cowrie shells, beautiful and hard to find far from the coast, became currency across vast swaths of Africa and Asia. Grains, like barley or wheat, were essential sustenance and could be measured. In ancient Mesopotamia, large transactions were often settled in barley. Imagine the chaos of trying to buy a plot of land with a teetering mound of grain, constantly worrying about rats, rot, or rain. These commodities solved some problems. They were more liquid than a direct barter. If you had salt, you knew almost anyone would want it eventually. But they had limitations. Cattle could die, grains could spoil, shells could be faked or too easily found. They were often bulky and hard to transport in large quantities. And crucially, how did you verify their quality? Was that truly pure copper, or was it alloyed with something cheaper? This last question led to a crucial step in the evolution of money, the rise of precious metals. Gold, silver, and to a lesser extent, bronze. These were beautiful, malleable, rare, durable, and universally desirable for ornamentation or status. Instead of a pile of grain, you could carry a small lump of gold. They could be melted down, shaped, and divided, making them far more versatile than cattle or shells. But the problem of trust persisted. If you had a lump of gold, how did I know it was pure? How did I know its exact weight? You could shave off tiny bits or mix in cheaper metals. Every transaction became a tedious affair of weighing, testing, and haggling over purity. Merchants needed small, precise scales, and even then, suspicion lingered. A universal standard was desperately needed. And then, almost 7 centuries before the Common Era, in the western coast of Anatolia, in the wealthy kingdom of Lydia, a true stroke of genius occurred. This region was a bustling crossroads of trade, rich in electrum, a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver found in its rivers. Legend has it that King Alyattes, or perhaps his son Croesus, looked at these lumpy, imprecise bits of electrum being traded and saw an opportunity. He ordered small, uniform pieces of electrum to be struck with a royal stamp. These weren't just lumps of metal anymore. They were coins. The stamp, initially a roaring lion, was more than just a decorative motif. It was a guarantee, a promise. The king himself, the supreme authority of the land, was vouching for the coin's weight and purity. This was the revolutionary idea. Money isn't about the intrinsic value of the material. It's about the trust placed in the authority that issues it. Suddenly, transactions were streamlined. No more endless weighing and testing. If it had the king's mark, it was good. This trust, backed by royal power, transformed commerce. Lydian coins spread rapidly throughout the Greek world and beyond. The idea was contagious. City-states, then empires adopted coinage. Athens minted its iconic owl coins. Rome, initially using rough bronze, moved to sophisticated silver and gold coinage, its emperors' faces becoming global symbols of value and authority. The Roman denarius, a small silver coin, became the dominant currency of the ancient world, enabling trade across an empire that stretched from Britain to Mesopotamia. Imagine legions being paid in precise, verifiable coins, allowing them to purchase supplies far from home. Imagine merchants settling vast debts with bags of uniform silver pieces. It was an astonishing leap in economic efficiency. But metallic money, for all its brilliance, still had limitations. Precious metals were finite. Empires could literally run out of gold and silver, leading to economic crises. The sheer weight of large sums of coins made them impractical for vast distances, and they were, of course, highly susceptible to theft. Imagine a Roman merchant trying to transport 1,000,000 denarii across the Alps. It would be a convoy, not a single individual. The next great leap in the invention of money came not from the West, but from the East, thousands of miles away in China. By the Tang Dynasty, 7th to 10th century CE, China was a vast, unified empire with bustling long-distance trade. Carrying cumbersome copper and iron coins for large transactions became a massive headache. Imagine carrying 1,000 pounds of copper coins just to buy a silk robe. Merchants began to use promissory notes, essentially IOUs. A merchant in one city could deposit a large sum of coins with a trusted individual or firm and receive a note. This note could then be presented to an agent of the same firm in a distant city to retrieve the coins. These notes were called fake yuan, flying money, because they were so light and easy to transport. This was the genesis of paper money, born not out of government decree, but out of commercial necessity. By the Sung Dynasty, 10th to 13th century CE, Chinese government itself started issuing official paper currency, recognizing the immense practicality. They understood the powerful conceptual leap. The paper itself had no intrinsic value, but the government's promise, its authority, gave it value. This was the ultimate realization of what the Lydians had started with their stamped coins. Money as a promise, a claim on value, not value itself. Meanwhile, in medieval Europe, a similar innovation was slowly taking root, not from royal decree, but from the humble craft of the goldsmith. Wealthy individuals, fearing theft,
would deposit their gold with goldsmiths, who had secure vaults. The goldsmiths would issue receipts for the gold. Over time, people began to realize they could just trade the receipts instead of the gold itself. If I owed you money, and you knew my goldsmith's receipt was good, you'd accept the receipt instead of demanding I go fetch the gold. These transferable receipts were the ancestors of modern banknotes.
This development was revolutionary. It introduced the idea of fiat money, money that has value simply because a government decrees it has value, and the people have faith in that decree. It was the ultimate magic trick, literally trading nothing for everything. A piece of paper, or later just a number in a ledger, could represent vast wealth. The economy was no longer constrained by the physical supply of gold or silver, it was constrained only by the trust in the issuing institution, be it a bank or a government. This powerful new form of money, however, brought with it new perils. The ability to create money from nothing meant the temptation to create too much nothing. Governments could print more money to pay debts or fund wars, leading to inflation, where money loses its purchasing power. Imagine the dramatic tension of a country like Germany after World War I, where hyperinflation meant a wheelbarrow full of banknotes was needed to buy a loaf of bread. The ultimate betrayal of trust. This inherent instability also led to cycles of boom and bust, to bubbles where speculative fervor would detach the value of money from any underlying reality. Think of the infamous tulip mania in the 17th century Holland, where the price of a single tulip bulb soared to more than the cost of houses, purely on the back of speculative belief, only to crash spectacularly, leaving thousands ruined. Or the South Sea bubble in 18th century Britain, a grand scheme that promised immense wealth, but was built on nothing but hot air and investor frenzy. These were vivid, often painful lessons in the power of collective belief and collective delusion to inflate or deflate the value of money. And what about the human cost? Does money, this ingenious invention that lubricates our economies, also corrupt our souls? Throughout history, money has been demonized and celebrated, seen as the root of all evil and the engine of progress. Philosophers and religious leaders have warned against avarice and the pursuit of material wealth. The invention of money, while freeing us from the limitations of simple exchange, also bound us to a new set of anxieties, debt, poverty, and the endless pursuit of more. Now, in the 21st century, money has undergone yet another conceptual metamorphosis. Most of the money in the world today is not physical cash, it's digital. It exists as numbers in computer systems, as electronic transfers, as data. When you tap your plastic card, there's no paper changing hands, no coins clinking. It's a purely invisible transaction, a whisper of information flowing across networks. The trust isn't just in the government, but in the intricate global banking system and the security of its digital infrastructure. And then came the ultimate conceptual leap, cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and countless others. Here, the trust isn't even in a central bank or government. It's in a decentralized network, in complex mathematical algorithms, in the distributed ledger of the blockchain. It's an attempt to create money outside the traditional systems of authority, bringing us back in a strange way to a kind of communal trust, but on a global digital scale. It asks the profound question, can the people create their own money outside the bounds of the state? The invention of money is not merely an economic story, it's a profound narrative of human imagination, cooperation, and social engineering. From the earliest tallies of favors to the standardized coins of kings, from flying paper notes to invisible digital ledgers, humanity has continually refined this extraordinary tool. It allowed us to move beyond the limitations of direct exchange, to build vast trade networks, to specialize, to innovate, to accumulate wealth, and to organize societies on an unprecedented scale. But it has also presented us with enduring challenges: how to manage its creation, how to distribute its benefits fairly, and how to prevent its misuse. Money, this powerful medium, this universal claim on goods and services, ultimately remains what it began as: a collective agreement, a shared story, a product of our collective belief. It is a testament to our astounding capacity to imbue nothing with profound power, allowing us to trade it for literally everything. The history of money is, in essence, the history of trust, constantly being redefined across the ages. And that ongoing reinvention is perhaps its greatest mystery.
And so, the greatest magic trick continues. If this exploration of trading nothing for everything has sparked your curiosity, imagine what other ideas lie waiting to be uncovered.
Subscribe to Ages Unseen and let's delve into more of history's hidden currents together.